cheating fiancé asked me to take her back after AP threw her on the curb. I'm at a loss for what to think or feel. I'm both bewildered and enraged at the same time. Extreme sadness and wrath at how foolish I've been, and at the truth about who this person truly was alternate with periods of ecstasy. My 2.5-year fiancé, a 27-year-old woman, and I, a 36-year-old man, were laid off last year after working together for 2.5 years. I had a demanding job that needed me to put in long hours every day. To avoid going into debt, I saved, and we spent the preceding year traveling, spending time together, and falling even more in love, or so I believed, as we grew closer. Since then, I've turned down multiple jobs since they needed me to relocate, which was impossible for me because of her past divorce-related restrictions. All I wanted was to be with her and her 2 children, and that was all that mattered to me at the time. We were both feeling apprehensive around the beginning of March, and I've been attempting to have more in-depth conversations with her about the future and our objectives, which she had expressed anxiety about. She professes to be apprehensive in general. I informed her that I'd look after her children while she went out with her friends to a concert she'd shown an interest in attending. During her absence, she contacted me throughout the day and returned that evening. The next morning, she was completely out of her mind, very intoxicated, and filthy when she returned home. The next day, she was acting oddly and made no mention of what had happened the day before. There is no image, no video, and just a few pieces of information. All of this was out of character for her. I knew who she went with, and I knew a guy who happened to be a cousin of the 3 buddies. It struck me as odd that no one brought up this particular night for the next week. It's as if the event never happened, and no one would say who was there or what they did while there. She informed me during a luncheon for her grandmother's birthday that the person who had gone to the performance with them had acquired her and her sister tickets to another event that she and her sister had not been aware of before. As a result, I became enraged and said unequivocally that this was not acceptable. After supper, I departed to return to my downtown flat, which I had rented earlier. Given the fact that her divorce is subject to specific restrictions, we are required to keep 2 residences, one for her and one for me. Between Thursday and Sunday, she lives with me, and between Monday and Wednesday, she lives with her mother, who is her primary caregiver. For the first time since 2007, the person was discovered on Facebook by a friend. It was the first time this has happened since 2007. After receiving a reply from him, I inquired as to why he had purchased tickets for my fiancée to attend a certain event. He completely denied any knowledge of her identity. He picked her up in his vehicle on the night of the performance, and they all claimed to be on their way out, according to a text message I have from the night before the performance. Despite everything, he maintained his innocence and proceeded to threaten me, my life, and insist that he had connections. I went to her place and had a face-to-face conversation with her for the second time. His wife and children were there, and she made it clear that he shouldn't have gone and that she couldn't show me anything since he had ordered that everything be taken from the premises. I told her that she had to decide whether she wanted to come honest or if she wanted to call it quits and move on. Over the course of the following week, I only had occasional contact from her, and I eventually made the choice on her behalf. I collected everything that belonged to her at my place and invited her to come grab it, since I had been through something similar previously and we were about to break our relationship at the time of gathering the belongings. Since then, I've received countless phone calls from my wife. I understand that divorce is a difficult process, and I understand that people often try to portray themselves in a more favorable light than they really are, but what she said shocked me to my core. This individual, M37, was a living dumpster fire. She had all of their emails from the preceding 6 months, as well as tracks where he said he was out of town on business and had been at her house for more than a week, which she used to prove his absence, which, according to the terms of her divorce decree, I was not allowed to. He's massaged me countless times, rubbing into my face, and he's threatened me with dire consequences if I talk to or give anything to her. He messages my ex-girlfriend, and she responds with enthusiasm, almost like a hype man. He's always sending me photographs and telling me I've done something wrong, and she'll light up like there's some kind of Instagram couple. Several times since then, she has returned to recover her stuff. She came in 2 or 3 times to talk to me. She was a kind lady. When she told me she missed me, she burst into tears and started to cry in my arms. She said she'd notified her family that she made a mistake and that she wanted me back. She was interested in learning what my family knew about me and whether or not I missed her. Her husband then moved in, she informed me, and that he forced her out and cursed her for talking to me. She also said that he asks to check her phone every night when he returns home, and that he is pretty abusive to the children and others. The wife told me that her sister, who was in the car with her, demanded that she leave the house because she had been alone with me for too long, and that if she didn't, she would call my ex and tell him that he was in trouble. She also told me that her sister said I wasn't right for her, and that she would feel awkward around me after all that she had said about me. He throws parties and gives them gifts, so she didn't want to risk losing tickets to the activities they had planned because of this guy. I thought it was absurd and pleaded with her not to heed to her 19-year-old sister's advice. She agreed. She and I left on friendly terms, and I hoped she'd come to her senses. When I returned the next day, she was back to being antagonistic towards me, refusing to pay me back for money she had borrowed despite the fact that we had agreed on return terms, and whining about how I was hurting her relationship with him. This man is a jerk, and I'm scared for her and the kids because of his actions. He, M37, has kicked his wife multiple times and follows her about at all times, demanding to know where she is and with whom she is spending her time at all times. Even after the divorce, he continues to email her and the children, threatening them and demanding to know who they are with and where they are going. She has been alienated from her friends and family for a long period of time. He has stage 5 renal disease, congestive heart failure, and is deafeningly it seems to go on and on forever. He's a genius when it comes to mind games, and I have a feeling things are only going to get worse for her from here. Despite his best efforts today, the true him always appears through his actions. Nothing except the fact that this person exists, and that I fell in love with and spent the preceding 2.5 years with someone who changed in a split second, is all that I can think about. We had practically spent the previous week debating how we wanted to spend the rest of our lives together before this moment arrived. We've been trying to conceive for a year, and there have been many ups and downs along the way. It would have been my first kid, and I was quite disappointed with myself. I'm at a loss for what to do. She's just the second person I've ever really loved. I put my faith in her and gave her and her children everything I could possibly give them. She betrayed me despite all of our chats about trust issues she had with her ex-husband, as well as with her history of being cheated on. For her to do this makes me question how foolish I am. Why would I ever want to do anything like this with another person? The way respectable men and women get unhappy and cease caring about others is to take advantage of them for attention and sex. Update: the difference between reality and fiction is that fiction has to make sense, to quote someone. I've stopped talking with her, blocked her, and am attempting to move on from the situation. The peculiar characteristics of this are what have me so perplexed, and they are also what have made moving on so tough. I was responsible for canceling the majority of our planned outings. This is her birthday week, so I've had to work quickly to locate friends to join me to a concert on her birthday and to organize a vacation to Disney World in Florida for spring break the following week, which is only a few days away. While I adore her and miss her with all of my heart, she doesn't live up to her words, and I'm not prepared to deal with another narcissist in the future.